up, YouTube? Topaz Yates back for another album review, and this one is to that David Banner, The God Box, and I'm giving this one the high-end yellow light, man, because there's a good selection of songs in here that I really like, and the fact that I love a whole lot of the concepts and such. But my issue with it, man, is there's a lot of songs on this that just come off as more message than actual quality music, because this is the thing that I've said for years. Like, you could be saying the deepest thing in the world and all that, dude, but if your production isn't tight, if your overall song isn't right to the point that people who aren't even paying attention to what you're saying will like it, then therefore people will go ahead and drift towards the songs that have no meaning at all, but yet they sound good. And that's the important thing as you as an MC and such, man. You have to focus on creating great songs. And then from there, having great messages and all of that stuff is secondary, and that definitely takes your song to a whole nother level. But the first priority is always create the greatest songs that you possibly can, and a lot of the songs off this project kind of fall flat. So if you want the total package of this review, man, you're gonna have to go ahead to my David Banner playlist and watch all of these individual reviews, as well as I've already reviewed Who Won It, which happens to be one of my favorite songs off this entire project, that Black Fist, Amar and My Uzi. But anyway, let's go ahead and break this joint down, starting from the top with the first song off of this, Magnolia. And I absolutely love this song, one of my favorite songs off this entire project. Not only is that production completely solid, this song is absolutely dope, but the whole meaning and message behind it was solid, because what is a magnolia? That's a tree. So that's ultimately the whole premise behind it, is David Banner is sitting under a tree as the tree is telling him the history of the tree, in which a lot of black people were lynched from that particular tree, and the tree is ultimately telling David Banner that he is ultimately no difference from all of these other black people that got lynched, and that's just some real talk. And when you think about it, there's a lot of stuff out here still to this day that's lasting over from slave times and all that, and if it could speak to you, it would honestly tell you things like, and that's definitely a thing here in Charlotte, man. Like, plantations are still being operated on here to this day, you did? Like, because I've gone to a plantation and filmed a wedding on that joint. My cousin had to do community service on the latter plantation and such, dude, in which she did community service because, like, her school kind of required it, and this gave her extra credit for classes and all of that stuff. But I was clowning her the whole way, like, do you understand what you about to do here? Because you're about to go to a plantation and work for free. And she didn't quite get it that those plantations actually were plantations back in slavery, dude. And then CeeLo gave a story and such in his verse, which it was a pretty dope story as well, where he's talking about a black cop that ultimately loses himself, as we see constantly, as there's a lot of black cops out here that thinking that they're going to be spared from getting treated as a black person because they're cops and such. And in CeeLo's story, this black cop gets dealt with, even though he's kind of going alongside of hating black people, as cops tend to do. That was an excellent song from top to bottom. Now, the next song we're going to talk about is Elvis, in which this is another one of my favorite songs off this project. I love that high energy production that goes along there. This song is talking about the appropriation of black music and such, making the greatest case by pointing at the greatest example of it in Elvis, who pretty much took rock and roll, which was originally black, but molded it into white, and now it's only white pretty much. As he's pointing at specific examples and such of who they actually sound like, or the music that they're actually doing. Like, looking at Justin Timberlake and the music that he's been doing is pretty much the music that Usher should have been doing if the music industry didn't take him and move him into a whole nother genre. Looking at Robin Thicke, saying that he pretty much is doing the same thing that Eddie Kendricks was doing back in the day. Saying how once they got John Mayer to be who he is and all of that, man, then they go ahead and cut off Jimi Hendrix and all of that because he's doing the same music as them. This is something that I've spoken about rather often over the years, man, because it's really ridiculous when you think about it. They tell black artists that you cannot sell black music like this, nobody is buying it, but yet they go ahead and get these white artists and such, man, and make them do black music, and they sell off the charts, and they say this is what music is actually supposed to be, and that's how they take over an entire genre of music, which is just not right. And here's my thing. I like a lot of white artists and such that's out there. There's a lot of talented white artists, but I can understand how they're using and propping these people up to take away from us. The next song is August, in which on this one, he's more delving into why he named this album The God Box and such. The reason being is that people ask for the proof that God even exists and all of that, dude, and that's what he's doing with this project. And when people ask who is God and all of that, man, he says that God is within all of us, as he points at the very end of this track, saying that he got it in this particular woman. And that is very key, because that's when the whole album shifts for the next 3 or so tracks, talking about women and such. It was a very brief track, but meaningful to the whole experience of this entire project, but not one of my favorites, as it leads to Cleopatra Jones, in which this was pretty deep, you dig, because what he's ultimately talking about is his perfect woman in his eyes, and comparing this woman to historical figures and all of that, and that was pretty solid. But the thing that was very important about this too is the fact that he's making it obvious that Cleopatra Jones is a black woman and such. As you know, throughout the history books, they've been whitewashing all of Egypt. That is the aspect of this that I really like, but not so much the song here. The next song is Marry Me, and this one was rather straightforward here. He's talking about trying to get married to these women and all that, but yet the whole purpose of it is saying that, okay, black men out there are known for not getting married right now and such, which that's just a lie, because I do weddings and all of that, so I see a lot of black men getting married and such. So this song is ultimately him debunking that myth that black men don't get married and such, as he's carrying over his songs that he's dedicating to his female fan base right here. It's cool in principle, but again, not one of my favorites. The next song is Judy Blood, and it's the last song of the female-driven content and such, as it's more twisted towards rock as well. Honestly, as David Banner is going towards these rock blends, because the next song has a rock blend to it as well, man, he really loses a whole bunch of quality within his tracks. As the next song is Traffic on Mars, as this one is more of a weed smoking type song, but a unique one, because what he's doing is he's talking about how stressful life is, that it drives people to actually smoking weed and doing all of this, with Traffic being the stress that this world is putting on you, and Mars being this world that's obviously not right. It's not as it needs to be, so it's not planet Earth, it's more Mars, in which that was kind of cool. But my last favorite song off this project was AK, where what this was that classic southern hip-hop that David Banner is known for doing and all of that, man. This is his absolute strength, where what he's doing on this song is representing Mississippi, as he's talking about how he knows the history of Mississippi. Even though he will represent Mississippi until he dies and such, he knows that the history of Mississippi, on where slaves and everybody really came into America and such, as far as black people are concerned. Like, there was a bunch of slave places and Mississippi was one of the biggest ones. He recognizes this. He really hates that whole aspect of it, but yet he still loves it for him being from there. And the last song on this album is Burning Thumbs, where what he's pretty much saying is he's just doing some real talk here, like as if he was at a concert and he was just talking some real talk, and people just light the lighters up for everybody and such to see in the middle of the concert. And he's saying pretty much keep your lighters up until you burn your thumbs and such, because he's just hitting you with real talk after real talk, saying how people believed that Barack Obama was going to change something, man, that he honestly was pushing change like it was a drug, and nothing actually changed, which was real talk. How he can't blame these kids out here for popping pills to escape the pain that they are currently living in. How we as a people just get fucked over the most of everybody in all of the world and such, man, which is all just real talk. I definitely enjoyed this, but this was definitely one of those songs that it was more message than quality music, dude. So overall, I would say 4 songs off this entire project that I really like, and that's why I'm giving this joint, man, a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely one I would say go ahead and cop some individual tracks up off of. But a quick recap here, man. The positives that I'm taking from this, man, is the fact that he has a lot of real talk, a lot of really good content within here, and some really good songs as well. But yet the negatives is it's just not consistent of a project. It definitely could have been better, but still one that you definitely should be peeping out, dude. But this concludes today's review, man, and now we're going to jump into a brief instrumental from underground producer Maniac before we jump into the news, and then jump into an article from DownloadPads.com. So Scott got arrested down there in Arkansas, man, for inciting a riot and all of that nonsense. And honestly, I just do not believe that to be true. That's honestly something that they keep in their pocket in order to arrest rappers and all that, dude, because if you get the crowd too hyped, then you are inciting a riot. But yet he took it and flipped it. Like, he took the mugshot that he had to take before he got out on bail and all of that, dude. He took it and made it into a t-shirt and has been selling it like crazy from what I'm hearing, man, for like $35 a pop. So he's definitely taking a negative into a positive and such, man, because this is just overtly the racist system that we're living in, where they'll honestly come and get you for anything. But anyway, on to today's article from DownloadPads.com, and today's article is about imposters. Because here's the thing, there was a TV show that was on a little minute ago and such, it already went off, but it was called Imposters, in which it was about a group of people that went around just scamming people for all of the money that they were worth and such. And the way they went about doing it was not unique, man. This is definitely something that you need to be watching for in your daily life, because what they did was go up to somebody and just give them kudos and continue to push them and make them feel like they're on top of the world or whatever as they get close enough to take away everything from them. As a lot of people that's around you, they probably doing the same thing, you did? Like, anybody who comes to you to hype you up and just talk all positive things to you and never just have real talk with you, these are the people that you need to watch out for. Those are the people that you're allowed to get close to you to take things away from you, dude. Like, you honestly want to keep people around you that's going to keep it real with you, whether you're right or you're wrong, man. Those are the people that you want. It's just sadly, people never want to hear about the things that they do wrong, and that's why you surround yourself with people who's viciously trying to take things from you. And that's exactly what this music industry is all about. Like, you always will have yes men in your corner and whatever, man. And then in the industry part of it, man, the labels are gonna come at you like they're doing you a favor, and they all smiles and all of that, dude, until they take all of your publishing. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow me at Twitter up there, and you can go to downloadpads.com, that's down there, to read today's article.